NFL draft nerds, welcome in. Night one of the 2025 NFL draft is in the books, and we have got draft grades for every single pick. Fired up to get into it, every single pick of the first round. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So, the Tennessee Titans obviously took Cam Ward with the first overall pick. I'm giving this pick an A. The Titans were in desperate need of a playmaking franchise quarterback. Cam Ward was a good first round swing as a playmaking franchise quarterback, right? He's got all the physical tools, like, to succeed in the modern NFL, the arm talent, the ability to throw off platform, the ability to throw with the odd arm angles, that playmaking ability. There's certainly some areas of the game to continue to develop, but Cam Ward, I think, was a good swing for the Titans overall. So I give them an A. You got the number one quarterback in the draft by a wide margin. So the Jacksonville Jaguars trade up from 5 to 2. They gave up a lot. They gave up a first-round pick. They gave up 36 this year. They also gave up a fourth-round pick, but they got a fourth-round pick back, and they also got a sixth-round pick. So essentially, they gave up a first and a second round pick to move up to get Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to play wide receiver and he's going to play cornerback. You see ESPN has it listed at cornerback here. That ain't accurate. He's going to play wide receiver and he's going to play cornerback for the Jaguars. That's what the team brass said after the pick. They're going to start him out at wide receiver throughout the offseason program, work him in at corner as they progress. And so to me, you got the best player in the draft. Bottom line. You still have 9 picks this year. You still have, I think 10 picks next year. That's an A. That is an A for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The New York Giants land Abdul Carter at 3 overall. To me, this is an A again. You got the third best player in the class, in my opinion. I think that Abdul Carter represents just so much potential, right? And you saw the development throughout this year, converting down from linebacker to edge. Obviously, it could complicate things with Kayvon Thibodeaux, but that shouldn't have stopped them from adding a talent like this. So that was a pretty big-time move for the New York Giants. The move they should have made, the chalky move, it made a lot of sense. That's an A for me. Now, they obviously have a pick later that we're going to talk about as well. Will Campbell to the Patriots at 4. Thought this would happen. And by the way, each of the first 8 players came off the board in the order I expected. I just did not have the Jaguars trading up to 2 with the Cleveland Browns, but each of the 8 players did come off the board as I predicted on the final mock draft here. But Will Campbell to the Patriots, I've thought this made sense for a long time. They needed to upgrade and protect Drake May and add somebody who can be an impact player in both the run and pass game, whether that's at tackle or guard. Will Campbell can absolutely provide that to them. I think he's going to be a great leader. He's a great athlete. This is another A pick for me. Mason Graham to the Browns. Again, kudos to them for getting the haul that they did. That was really important, in my opinion, because you look at figuring it out at quarterback. They could take a swing this year on day 2 and then still come back next year. They have the ammunition with 2 first-round picks next year to go up and get whoever they need. So that's part of this evaluation. And then also getting Mason Graham, who's the 4th-ranked prospect on my board at 5 overall, I think is excellent work for the Cleveland Browns. Now, they still got to find their quarterback, but I don't think that they were going to find that quarterback with the 2nd overall pick. So good work for the Cleveland Browns. I think the Jaguars and the Browns are both winners from that trade. At 6, Ashton Jeanty to the Las Vegas Raiders. This was my 2nd overall prospect in the class. So getting him at 6 overall is a huge win for the Raiders. They now have offensive skill players, Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty, Geno Smith, right, throwing the football. This is an exciting group in Las Vegas. So good for them. Another A. I think that the first 6 picks of the draft were outstanding picks. Now, after that, things start to get a little interesting. Armand Membu to the Jets at 7 overall. I also expected this to happen. Aaron Glenn comes from the Detroit Lions. Their foundation of that football team was the offensive line. The Jets had the opportunity to go get a right tackle to pair with Olu Fashanu, who they took last year. I thought that's what they would do. Now, for me, Armand Membu is not a top 10 prospect, but I do think he projects to be a good starting right tackle in the NFL. I think it might take a year or two for him to get his feet under him, but he's got all the physical tools. He had an unbelievable year this past year at Missouri. He's young, he's big, athletic, got the length. He's got it all, really. It's just about putting it all together, in my opinion, technically. I think that that's where you can grow a little bit with Armand Membou. I'm going to give this pick an A minus. I just think that at 7, there were players that I valued a little bit higher, right? So I'm going to give it an A minus. At 8, Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona to the Carolina Panthers. Another one I called, again, to me, slightly early, but Tetairoa McMillan is the type of player that I think Bryce Young needed, quite frankly. Is he going to be a true wide receiver 1 in the NFL? I think he has a chance to be that. If not, he's going to be a really good 1B. But he's the best receiver the Panthers have. He's got the catch radius, the ability to come back to the football, to attack the football. He's going to help Bryce Young out a ton. I think the Panthers already had a really good offensive line situation coming in. Yeah, they could use some help defensively, but I think helping out your young franchise quarterback who had a really strong end to the 2024 campaign is a good way to go. Now, the Saints taking Kelvin Banks. I know that there's a lot of mixed opinions on Kelvin Banks. To me, he's more of a late first-round talent. And I don't know if I gave the Panthers a grade there. I'll give them an A minus. I just think that it's slightly early for T-Mac, but I like him a lot. Kelvin Banks, to me, this is a reach. I think that he falls off blocks too often. I think that he's got good size, good athleticism, good tape, but none of it's great. And again, falls off blocks a ton. And to me, just doesn't move the needle all that much. Could he be a good NFL starter? Yes. Do I think he is better than a lot of the players that went after him? No. So, sorry, Saints fans, I'm actually going to give this one a C. I think it was a fairly large reach. Colston Loveland, one of those players I'm talking about that I think is a much more talented overall prospect than the guy that went a pick ahead of him. And Colston Loveland, I know a lot of people are like, oh, how can you take him over Tyler Warren? It's two different styles of tight end. Just think about Colston Loveland as the Bears version of Sam Laporta, and really a plus version of Sam Laporta, in my opinion. I think he's a better overall athlete, more natural pass catcher. Ben Johnson is going to put this kid to work, and he's going to have a huge, huge career for the Chicago Bears. So I thought that was an exciting pick. I give them an A for that. 11, Mykel Williams to the San Francisco 49ers. Really interesting pick. Not the type of guy you typically think of in San Francisco, but I think they'll weaponize him. And I did have him in the teens on my big board. I think Mykel Williams is a very, very talented guy. Dealt with a little bit of injury this year. Still a very young prospect. He's got length. He's got athleticism. At very worst, in year 1, you're getting a really good run defender, and the 49ers need help defending the run. And I think that there is a pathway to him becoming a really impressive overall pass rusher as well. I'll give this one a solid B for the 49ers. Not the highest rated player on my board, but certainly someone where you can see kind of the plan here for the 49ers. At 12, Tyler Booker to the Dallas Cowboys. This is not one that I saw anybody call, but I love kind of pairing up Tyler Smith and Tyler Booker as your guards. You have Cooper Beebe there at center. I love the interior of the offensive line. Dallas Cowboys football has been, built around over the last decade, whatever, around strong offensive line play. I still worry a little bit about the tackles, but Tyler Booker at guard, this guy is out there to destroy your will, to make you not love the game of football. I think he's going to be able to do that at a very high level for the Dallas Cowboys. So I like that pick a lot. I'll give that pick an A. I love Tyler Booker's game. Kenneth Grant to the Miami Dolphins is a really interesting one. This is a guy who to me projects as a nose tackle, right? Who has maybe some juice to be able to disrupt in the backfield as well. He's really tall. The pad level, a little bit concerning, can get moved off the ball even though he's 340 pounds a little bit. To me, this was a little bit of a reach. A little bit of a reach for the Dolphins, who could have gotten someone who I think projects better as a more balanced overall player, and they could have gotten someone who I think could, emulate the Christian Wilkins role a little bit more to a T. When you talk about Derek Harmon. So to me, this was a reach. I have to give this one a C. 14, the Colts, Tyler Warren called this one, so I can feel good about that, certainly. I think Tyler Warren for the Colts is an A. He's a great football player. Just unbelievable football player, super explosive, super sized tight end who's kind of a throwback, can be a offensive engine. And you just think about the size of that Colts offense at the skill positions. Tight end, Tyler Warren is an absolutely massive human being who's a beast. Jonathan Taylor, a massive running back who's insanely explosive, a beast. Anthony Richardson obviously got some work to do in the developmental part of playing quarterback, but another physical freak. And Michael Pittman, a really big receiver. That is a physical offense. I'm excited to see what they can do. So I will give Tyler Warren, who I thought was a blue chip prospect, to the Colts, an absolute A+ for the Indianapolis Colts there. Jalen Walker to the Atlanta Falcons, another one I was able to predict here. I think that this is a really solid pick overall for them. What they did later, very interesting, right? But I think that this was a solid pick for the Falcons. I'm still curious about how he'll be deployed exactly. I'll give this one a B. He's got the upside and the intangibles to be a very good football player in this league. Will he pay off as the 15th overall pick? I think there's a good chance he will. Walter Nolan to the Cardinals at 16. This one is like swinging for the fences, and I like it because he has, I've said it on here, he has the opportunity, the potential to be like one of the very best players in this draft class. You've got to hone it. You've got to get him focused, and you also need to just play him in a way that you can just let him try to wreak havoc in the backfield. Let him one gap. Let him just try to penetrate and create disruption. And if you do that, and if he's focused and locked in, I think you have the opportunity to have an incredibly disruptive interior pass rusher. I will give the Arizona Cardinals a B+ for this one. Cincinnati Bengals taking Shamar Stewart at this spot, to me, is a reach. I know he's got all the physical tools you could ask for, but to me, the tape isn't all that impressive. I think there's a long way to go. Yes, he can defend the run. Yes, he has the potential to be a big-time pass rusher. I liked a lot of guys on the board a lot more than Shamar Stewart. I have to give the Bengals a C for this pick. At 18, Seattle Seahawks take Gray Zabel, who I actually mocked to the Bengals. I think that would have been a great pick. But Gray Zabel to the Seahawks, in past mocks, I've done this one, and you've seen it a lot in mocks. Gray Zabel, I think, is just such a fantastic player and a fantastic fit for this new offense that they're going to be running in Seattle. That's an A+ for me. He's got versatility to play all across the interior of the offensive line. He's going to be such a solid football player. So that's an A+. Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Emeka Egbuka. The player at this spot, I would give an A. But the fit is weird just because you have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, now Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, I think he jumps Jalen McMillan in the pecking order here and becomes that third wide receiver. I think there's been some folks critical of the fit, but Chris Godwin has the ability to play outside. Emeka Egbuka has the ability to play outside. They can both move around the formation. Obviously, you're going to want to be in 11 personnel a ton with these guys. And so if your 11 personnel is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka, I think that's kind of a trump card. That's kind of a superpower, right? So that's huge for them. I'll continue to give them an A because you made a strength even stronger, and there's nothing wrong with doing that in this league. Jahdae Barron to the Denver Broncos at 20. Not the highest rated guy on my board, but also this is kind of appropriate range for him. And now you're talking about a cornerback duo of Patrick Surtain II and Jahdae Barron. You've also got Riley Moss. I think they've also got Chris Abrams-Draine. They got a really solid cornerback group. And also McMillian, I think, is still there at nickel too. So they got a really good secondary. They improved their defense so much this past year. I'll give this pick a solid A-. Derek Harmon to the Steelers. This is an A+. I can't remember who called it. It might have been Robert Mays. But Derek Harmon, I didn't think he was going to fall this far. He's going to be the next great Steeler interior defensive lineman. You can book that right now. I think this was a fantastic pick. He's going to play the run. He's going to create pass rush problems for interior offensive linemen and just be a disruptor. He did it all this past year. You know, he dropped some weight. He became more of a three-tech penetration style player. He aced the combine, did a fantastic job. Derek Harmon to the Steelers is an A+. Omarion Hampton to the Chargers. Omarion Hampton was my running back 3. But again, this is kind of like a flavor thing. I had Travion Henderson in front of him. Hampton is, I think, a really good fit for what the Chargers want to be offensively. He's a freight train, really explosive, really tough to bring down. I think you could kind of compare him a little bit to like Jonathan Taylor. Not one-to-one, but this is the type of guy that's going to wear down opposing defenses. He absolutely is. Now, do I think 22 is appropriate value for him? To me, it's a little early, but I see the fit in a big way, and I like the explosiveness he brings. So I would probably give this one a B+. At 23, the Green Bay Packers taking Matthew Golden. I think this is very good value for them. I think they get their field-stretching wide receiver that they've been looking for. Is he a true wide receiver 1? That's the thing you kind of been looking for in Green Bay. I'm not sure, but I do think with all the pieces they have, Matthew Golden is going to fit in really well. He's going to be that down-the-field target for Jordan Love and for this offense. So I'll give this pick an A. 24, the Minnesota Vikings take Donovan Jackson. I also was able to predict this one correctly, which is pretty cool this far down the board. But Donovan Jackson at 24, it's an appropriate range in my opinion, and I think he's a good fit for their offense. I think they address a need. So Donovan Jackson, I'll give this one a solid B+. I don't think he's like truly a first-round player, but you look at the versatility, you look at his ability to play tackle and guard. It's a very solid pick for the Vikings there. Now, the Giants traded up to 25 to take Jackson Dart. To me, this is a mistake. I think Shedeur Sanders should have been QB2 off the board pretty clearly. Now, you can certainly sit here and say, well, Jackson Dart, he has more of the tangibles, more of the traits than Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is a much more accurate quarterback. I think he's just a better operational quarterback. I think that's going to play out in the NFL, and Shedeur Sanders is going to have a better career than Jackson Dart. I'm not all the way out on Jackson Dart, but he should not have been a first-round pick, in my opinion. I also didn't have Shedeur Sanders as a first-round pick. I thought, though, if you're going to come back up for a quarterback, it should have been Shedeur. So this is going to be a really interesting one. I think that I'm going to give this one a D. And the Falcons trading back up for James Pierce Jr. So they drafted 2 really small edge rushers. That's kind of an issue. And then you're also giving up a first-round pick next year for James Pierce Jr. I think that is really, really bad process. Like, it's one thing for the Jaguars to give up a first-round pick for Travis Hunter, who's going to play both sides of the ball, and who's a blue-chip prospect on both sides of the ball, and also just creates this unbelievable trump card in the receiver room, pairing Travis Hunter up with Brian Thomas Jr. But James Pierce Jr., I'm a fan of his game. I'm not a fan of the process of this pick at all. You also talk about you go get the maybe highest intangibles guy in the draft in Jalen Walker, and then you go get James Pierce Jr., who everybody has character concerns about. It's very confusing, in my opinion. So I'm going to give this one a D. Yeah. 2 trade-ups right there that, to me, missed the mark. Now, you know what didn't miss the mark? They never missed the mark. The Baltimore Ravens landing Malachi Starks, who was a top 10 prospect for me at 27. The Ravens always do this, and they now have, in my opinion, what will be the number 1 safety duo in the NFL by a wide margin. Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks, this is incredible. Incredible work by the Ravens, and the NFL let it happen. The NFL let it happen. So I'm going to give the Baltimore Ravens an A++, the highest grade you can possibly have. That's what the Ravens get for taking Malachi Starks at 27 overall. Tyleik Williams to the Detroit Lions. I love this one. He is so explosive at his size at 330 pounds. I love the way he can disengage from blocks in a flash at the point of attack. I think, to me, this is the type of guy that you can build around with that defensive front, and you've already got some guys you're excited about. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson coming back from injury. I'm going to give this pick an A. I think he's a fit culturally and from a talent standpoint at this point in the draft. The Washington Commanders taking Josh Conerly at 29. I love this. You go trade for Laramie Tunsil. You add Josh Conerly. Now, Conerly, he's not perfect right now. Like, he needs to add some strength to his frame, in my opinion. He can get a little bit better with his hands. But from a physical traits standpoint, there's only one tackle in this class that is more impressive than Josh Conerly. And he is still on the board at this point. But I understand why a team might pass on the other Josh because of the injury. I like the process here a lot. Again, I would have probably taken the other Josh here, so I will give them a B+. I really like what they're doing, though, trying to make sure that they're going to protect Jaden Daniels and really get it going in the run game. And they've got a lot of athleticism at tackle now, which is exciting. Maxwell Hairston to the Buffalo Bills. I like the pairing of Maxwell Hairston and Christian Benford a lot at corner for them. Hairston plays the game he plays the game in a very respectable way because he's so aggressive. He's so fast, has that 4.2 speed, very quick twitch, very aggressive. I think he's going to be someone who really kind of elevates that Buffalo Bills secondary, and having Christian Benford there with him, and, you know, all the other guys that they also have, you know, one of the best nickel corners in the game. They're still working on upgrading the safety position overall. They added Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp's still there. I wouldn't be surprised to see a safety come off the board to them at some point in the draft. But Maxwell Hairston at 30, I would give this one another solid B+. Jihad Campbell to the Eagles. This is another one where, you know, the Eagles are always able to kind of take advantage of market inefficiencies. I do think Carson Schlesinger was the top linebacker, off-ball linebacker. Now, how will they use Jihad Campbell? I haven't listened to the press conference or anything yet. Is he going to be purely an off-ball linebacker? If so, I still think it's a good pick. If you're going to be able to find some versatility for him, I like him rushing off the edge as well. That could be exciting. Either way, I think Jihad Campbell's going to end up hitting in this defense. It is interesting with Zach Bond, Kobe Dean, and their linebacker crew, how Jihad Campbell's going to be deployed. But I think the Eagles, of all teams, will be able to figure it out at an extremely high level, and he is one of the freakiest athletes and physical specimens in this class. So good pick for them. I'll give it a solid B+. I don't think he was the best player available even at his position, but I'm in the minority in that regard when it comes to Carson Schlesinger being the top linebacker in this class, but I really like Jihad Campbell as well. So yeah, we'll give them a B+. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, the steal of the draft, my top pure offensive tackle. I did have Will Campbell as the top offensive lineman, but the top pure offensive tackle, left tackle, Josh Simmons, who is coming off an knee injury. But the Chiefs, I love the vision here because Josh Simmons does have history playing right tackle, but he played left tackle at Ohio State. Jawan Taylor is going in the final year of his deal. That is a deal that has not really worked out for the Chiefs. Heavily penalized player, just hasn't been as good as he was during his final year in Jacksonville. Josh Simmons is going to be a fixture of that offensive line, and Jalen Moore, I think, has a chance to be a good player as well. You now have Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Josh Simmons as pillars of your offensive line. I think that's an unbelievable top three. I think Josh Simmons is going to be a fantastic tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. An unbelievable play by them being able to land Josh Simmons at 32 overall. This is an A+. Absolutely it is. And so some of these teams down at the bottom that really have no right to be able to get players this talented, they continue getting stronger. Jihad Campbell, an unbelievable talent at 31. Josh Simmons, an unbelievable talent at 32. Malachi Starks to the Ravens, unbelievable talent at 27 overall. And now Will Johnson's still on the board. You've got some guys that are going to be really interesting to start day two. And we'll do a day two preview that'll focus on the top available prospects. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. It's all draft all the time here at Rogue Football. Y'all have a good one.